Visionary. By Douglas Milewski. Elemental P. United States. Copyright 2016 by Douglas Milewski. All rights reserved. Chapter 14. It's easy to swear up and down to make peace, but stepping out of the car and back into your own house causes a sort of amnesia, a moral whitewash. Somehow, everything isn't quite so important once you sit in your own chair in your own muggy room. It's as if your home contained memories from your head, and the minute that you walked in, all those petty thoughts come rolling back in. Keeping them at bay proved hard. Cymbeline had dinner on the table. It had gotten cold. "Where were you?" she asked, ice in her tone. "We had a date, remember?" "I'm sorry. I had to talk to a priest. The trip took too long." She still didn't look happy. "What did he say?" "He said that I tried to sound humble here, do things differently. I should make peace." "With who?" "With everybody. Between everybody. That's what I need to do." "That sounds impossible." "Yeah, I had to admit, that's completely impossible, but I think that he's right. I don't think that I can live with myself if I do anything else." I thought for a long time before writing the inspector's speech. Some things in it broke his character, but after these last few horrors, something needed changing. Better, I thought, to make a break with the past and recreate the character in a more merciful mold. "Young man, we do not hate these people. Do you think that all those people out there who know something about magic are hate-worthy? No, they are just people like you and me. They were nobodies when the wizards were in power, and they're still nobodies. They are not worth our hate. For those who plied an honest trade, we have no hate. For those who dabbled and wandered away, we have no hate. For those who fled in fear of their lives, we have no hate. No, we do not even hate those who lift their hands in violence, for the Lord told us to love our enemies. We cannot wait for them to stop their brutal ways and come to the table. We must act first. Only love can win over enmity." It was a good speech in my opinion, and exactly what we needed in this circumstance. What I didn't need was Comrade Fate walking in the door breathing hard from the steps, announcing her intentions by throwing a stack of paper onto my table and plopping down into the chair. "These are my ideas for some stories. I think that we should publish them as soon as possible. I want your inspector to get more tools at his disposal. He gets the scientist to help him see who keeps inventing all these gadgets. Kids love science. And because of his dangerous work, the inspector must hide his identity, so he pretends to be a simple bureaucrat during the day, but at night he becomes the inspector. I could tell you more, but I have no heart." Those were Fate's best ideas, and she would not take no for an answer. The truth is, Fate doesn't come knocking. She has a key to the door. Her last words were, "Have your secretary type these up. I'll pick you up for breakfast." You'll notice that I left out my arguments against these stories. Fate didn't listen. Fate didn't care. Talking to Fate was like talking to a farm cart minus the horse. I am more confident that I could have persuaded the cart than Fate. Now I know why she called herself Fate. There's no arguing with Fate. I would have to get this cleared. I could squeeze out a spare story here and there, but I could not process that entire pile, so I got on the phone, the one luxury that I allowed myself. The Baroness's response to Fate's declaration surprised me. "This is a solvable problem. Why don't we start another magazine, one dedicated to outlandish stories? There's always a segment that likes those. You'll be the editor. I'll have my other editors send appropriate submissions over to you. We'll have to squeeze you in the printing schedule, though. I'll give you a week to get this assembled and back to me." Just like that, I found myself in charge of a magazine with no title, no artist, no submissions, no staff except for Fate and myself, and a deadline designed to drive me crazy. To be honest, the real editor for those first issues was Fate. She called it astonishing science. Her first act was to walk straight out the door and hire a street artist to make the cover. She visited the offices of the censors and stole pieces out of their work piles, then she stole pieces out of the unprintable piles. She knocked on the door of every agent she could find. Her big discovery was an arts program being run in Philadelphia. The communists had set up a program to pay writers for stories, then filed all those stories away into boxes. From that sweltering warehouse we found a treasure trove. Fate dropped me off at midnight with 6 boxes of manuscripts. As for reading through stories, I tried to enlist Cymbeline, but her refusal was adamant. I want nothing to do with communists. Keep me well away from that woman. Joe and Charlie were just as hesitant. She's your chickbird. I don't do other people's problems. In the end, it was me and Fate who waded through that pile of stories, assembling enough words for a magazine run. My upscale flat now looked like a typing bomb had exploded. All that activity didn't go unnoticed. There's always money to be made by those entrepreneurial enough to get in your way. They're modern Vikings, camping with spears and torches at your gates, merely wanting a chest of gold to get on their way. My modern Viking was named Jules, a man in an Italian suit with eyes of chrome steel. I'm from the Baltimore Writers Association. He reached out his hand in friendship, but his hand contained nothing. We think that writers deserve fair pay. We can force the publishers to give that to us. We can change the industry. You don't want to get left out, right? What do you write? What's your pen name? Jack Jackson, I said. That was my pen name, Double Jack, just like Joe had suggested. If you want to thrive, Jack Jackson, you need to throw yourself in with us. You'll rise with the tide with our tide. We'd love to have you along. If you were to miss out, I'm sure that you'd be sorry. Missing out would be bad for business. We're going exclusive. You'd be shut out of our markets. We're also arranging supplies of paper for ourselves. You need typing paper, right? There's a shortage and we want that paper. Other businesses are trying to corner the market too. We have to fight for our share. It'd be a shame if you missed out. He went on that way, highlighting the advantages of his organization, while continuously telling me how I would miss out. If I had been a true freelance writer, I might have understood what he'd been saying to me, but as I had both the Baroness and Comrade Fate backing me, I didn't see the need for any writers' organization. No, I said over and over again. Eventually he got frustrated and left. He seemed like the last person that I would ever see again. Rackets start like that. Carrot first, then a stick. I already had enough carrots dangling in front of me and enough sticks behind. And who'd be dumb enough to mess with the Baroness? Jules was, I guess. On Thursday morning, I arrived back to find my front door kicked open. The place on Connolly Square had been trashed. Paper was everywhere. Every box and every stack had been overturned. The magazine, almost ready to launch, now lay scattered about the floor. I called Joe for advice. Telling the story took a while as I had to wade through Joe's digressions. Eventually he said, "You don't take nothing to the police. They're all in pay from the rackets. You aren't worth the money 'cause they don't get a dime from you. You let me get to the bottom of this." His name was Jules. Don't do anything bad, Joe. You want me to do you a favor or not? You do. Rackets are run by gangs and gangs have bosses. You talk to the right boss and everything gets patched up nice. You still pay, but they have to pay you something back. It's all the cost of doing business. It's like churches. They're rackets. You gotta show up or you go to hell. You don't want to go to hell, right? So put some money on the plate and you can go to heaven, right? Everything's a racket. When you live somewhere, no matter how small or plain, you think of the place as yours. Here was the one small place in the world where you ruled, where what you said goes. Rackets tell you that you're wrong. That is not your place and you don't rule it, they do. Your peace is only there by their grace. You are nothing. They can step on you at will. Maybe Joe was right. Religion really was a racket. I am not naive, and yet in this matter I proved naive. In hindsight, the Baroness must have been paying off people, Comrade Fate must have been paying off people, and my other employers had been paying off people. Cops used to come around the office to get the money out of envelopes. It had always been somebody else doing the paying, not me. I had never done this sort of paying off myself. Yet here it was, only this time I had to pay, not them. This time I had to join the game. This time I had to open my wallet and swallow my pride. Being an editor meant that I had to face the challenges of an editor. In that day and time, it required paying off the rackets. Joe, could you find Jules and work something out? So now I had 3 rackets to pay off: the Communist Party, whatever gang Jules worked for, and the church. What was I getting out of this? Nothing. That's a racket.